Hello, I'm Mike and welcome to the Pin Man. Today I'm going to try to run through this kind of quickly so I don't make this video too long. It may produce more questions than I'm able to answer because the issue of the Chinese copied or knockoff fountain pens is really a big one because it delves into the world of business, legal and ethical issues that can really be tricky. This has been an educational journey for me as I started really looking up some legal sites that delved into this issue and I found it really interesting. Well, first of all, I'm going to deal with what spurred me to want to do this video. Then we're going to look at just briefly some legal and ethical issues. And then I'm going to give you some of my personal takeaways from all this. So first of all, why? Why did I get into this? Or why did I want to make this video? I was watching a video podcast by a well-known and well-loved online fountain pen retailer. And the two gentlemen, there was a Q&A, and the two gentlemen were given the question, if you only had $20 to spend on a pen or each pen that you could buy, would fountain pens continue to be a hobby or cease to be a hobby? And I believe the spirit of the question was, are there enough fountain pens available for under $20 to still make the fountain pen hobby or journey fun and interesting? These two kind of scratched their heads and mulled over the question. They thought about products that their own company sold, and they really weren't able to come up with too many that were in that price range, the $20 and under. And so they basically said, well, no, one of them said, well, at that point, fountain pens would just be utilitarian. Maybe they would be more into the inks, but it would just be more utilitarian. It would cease to be a hobby because there just weren't enough fountain pens out there in that price range that would make the journey fun. And I ended up commenting on the video, but I'm thinking the whole time they're doing this, guys, you know that they're out there, but they're produced in China primarily, and there's a lot of fountain pens in that price range. So why aren't you just come out and say that? And I don't know why they didn't, because they do sell some Jinhaos, for instance, and I don't know if they're just afraid to send people off into to other retailers, or maybe I don't know if I can't imagine they thought they would lose some business, but for whatever reason, they didn't mention it. And I know that's an issue within the fountain pen community, where you and I wrestle with the legalities and the ethics of the Chinese fountain pen, primarily the knockoffs, the copies, the copied Safaris and the copied Pilot 823s or the Lamy 2000s. And there's Parkers, a lot of copied Parkers out there. So we struggle with that, and I just want to give some insight. I'm not going to answer. I don't think I'm going to settle, and I'm not going to attempt to settle the dilemma for you. I know personally kind of how I've come down to in my own mind how I feel about it, but I just want to at least encourage you to dig a little deeper yourselves because it was educational to me. So let's take a look at consider the legal issues involved here. I used to think, okay, well, there must be international law that's against this, and Parker or Lamy could go to this international legal court or what have you and state their case, and they would go to China and say, you have to stop doing this or this thing and that. That doesn't exist. Sometimes countries, if there's enough of product stealing, they'll ban certain products or enact certain trade restrictions and so forth. And so that does go on. But let's limit ourselves to fountain pens because, quite frankly, I don't think countries are too worried about fountain pens. They're worried about electronic devices and that sort of thing. They're not worried about fountain pens, believe me. I found out that this is not, when it comes to trademark and patents, infringements on those things, these are civil issues. They're not criminal issues. And with these civil issues, it's up to the individual companies, for instance, Lamy or Parker, to approach the Chinese courts, for instance, and state their case of this infringement and try to get a cease and desist on the companies that are doing the copying. Well, that's apparently that's a very costly and time-consuming effort if proper steps by the genuine company weren't followed to protect their trademarks and their design specifications. So what I found out was, let's say Parker is producing this pen, they wanted to protect the design, they would go to various countries that they felt like there may be a risk of a copy and file the proper legal paperwork in order to get their products protected. If they don't feel that the risk is worth the time and effort, the cost, then they don't do it. So apparently, sometimes they're willing to take the risk. They might even be expecting these things to happen, especially if they are outsourcing part of their production or maybe even all of their production to a Chinese company. They know the risk that somehow this company, according to Chinese law, the company that they're working with can't copy it and resell it under their brand. But they can get a hold of their cousin in a neighboring province and show them design and say, okay, you come up with this and you patent it, we'll share the profits. So the companies know the risk of doing this when trying to save a buck. So there's that. If you're really concerned, protect your product. Which leads us to, okay, ethically. Is it ethical to do that? Generally speaking, I would say no. It's not ethical to copy somebody else's product and basically stealing their profits and building your own brand name off of their design, not giving them any kind of compensation, so forth. It would be like you and me, say we made these pen storage boxes and we sold them at the same vendor's fair. I saw your product and I thought, and it was selling good. I thought, oh, I could make some money off that. I like that design. Maybe I even bought one of yours and said, I like this. I'm going to produce the same. Maybe, do something different with it. Not much. Everybody likes the design. I'm going to produce the same thing and I'm going to sell it. Well, you and I would say, no, that isn't ethical, right? However, international corporate practices don't play by those same rules. That's why there are so many laws there available for companies to take advantage of to protect their products. So while you and I would say basically no, it isn't ethical, these companies are playing this game. They all play it. I don't care what country, whether you're an American country, a British country, a German country, French, Indian, whatever the case may be, they're looking for an advantage, especially in the international playing field. And so if they can find a loophole or something some way that they can make a profit by copying or stealing, they do it. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's where companies understand that they better make sure all their I's are dotted and T's crossed to make sure that their product is protected. If they don't, then they apparently are not that concerned about the copies. I also found that emerging countries will often do this practice of copying other countries' products, businesses that are successful. Japan did this, I think, primarily after World War II. I don't know all the historical, timeline and so forth, but I just know that, they copied everything from the Beatles to these little, trucks and toys and other fashions, and they were doing this. You can find that on the internet. They have these pictures, side-by-side product images. Germany did this in the late 1800s, early 1900s, as they were emerging. They copied Britain because at that time Britain was producing some of the world's finest products in various areas. So it could be with pens, it could be with ships, who knows. And Germany they were kind of sending spies to Britain to take a look at some of these products. And they were doing it under the guise of just being interested people, and and they ended up going back to Germany with all their notes, and they were producing the same products. So this isn't unusual, and China is kind of one of those emerging countries. Like I said, I'm not necessarily justifying it. I'm just saying that this isn't unusual as far as what's going on. So here's some takeaways that I just want to share with you from this. I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other how you should handle this situation. You should avoid Chinese knockoffs. You should buy Chinese knockoffs. This is a personal decision of your own. But just some takeaways here. That number one, the companies, if they are really concerned, if they really feel like that Chinese knockoffs, copies are going to be a threat to their profit, then they need to do, and they know they need to do this. The due diligence, this is not just something they shouldn't have to worry about. This is something that businesses know they need to do to protect their products, is to do the due diligence, in filing whatever legal paperwork needs to be done in individual countries. The second, because some of these companies can offer their products in different colors and designs than the genuine company can or does, then they're just offering the public something different that the other company doesn't offer. And so, the parent company needs to take note and say, okay, people like that, we're going to offer them in that. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Additionally, I really don't think, after reading the information that I've read, in some of these cases, I don't think that the parent company, say Lamy, Parker, Mont Blanc, are too concerned about these copies or these knockoffs. One of the reasons is quality. People know that if they want the better quality, they go to the genuine, they go for the genuine product. And they're going to buy it through a reputable retailer to make sure that they are getting the genuine product. I don't think that the genuine companies are too concerned because, as far as from a financial perspective, because, for instance, the Lamy Safari, if, most people can afford to buy the genuine product. And so, unless they're wanting a different style that Lamy doesn't offer, most people, I believe, and apparently the Lamy company believes, that most people are going to buy the genuine product. When it comes to the higher end pens and their prices, if somebody's going to be able to afford a Lamy 2000 for $200 plus US dollars, they're more likely to buy the genuine product because they will want the quality, the greater quality materials, and they will also want the backing of a reputable company, warranties, so forth. If somebody can't afford a $200 plus Safari, then they're not going to buy it anyway. So whether they buy a knockoff or they don't buy it anyway, Lamy's not going to get the money to begin with. So if somebody can afford it, Lamy's going to get that customer. They're more likely to get that customer. If a person can't afford it, Lamy's not losing any money. Even though they buy a knockoff, they're not going to lose any money. Because there's a lot of people, let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that can't afford to be buying a whole bunch of, $200 plus pens. Mont Blanc, I guarantee they're not worried about any Chinese knockoffs or even the copies, because I saw in this one, just going through eBay, or was it AliExpress? Maybe it's AliExpress. I found a Mont Blanc that sold for $35. Whoa, what a deal! No, anybody that knows fountain pens is going to know that is not, even though it looks like the genuine deal. I mean, it had the snow cap on the cap finial. It had the Mont Blanc engraved on the band and all of that. We know just the price. Nobody's going to sell it for that much, for that little, I should say. For those that can afford a genuine Mont Blanc or even a used Mont Blanc, are going to buy the genuine product. They're not going to settle for this cheap knockoff. So there's no threat there. They're not worried. I don't think Mont Blanc is concerned with the Jinhao 159 or X159, even though it looks, especially the 159, which I'm going to be doing a review on shortly, even though it looks very similar to a 149 as far as the size and stuff, there are enough differences. Jinhao didn't try to copy. They don't have the little snow cap on the cap finial, and it says Jinhao on it. So yeah, they've tried to duplicate. They even put a bigger nib on it, but they only offer the thing in fine. So You know, Montblanc is not worried about that. Montblanc is not going to lose any money to Jinhao on this. So again, I'm not trying to change minds here or influence any particular position. The bottom line here is I would encourage you to do your own research, look into this. Yeah, I found it very interesting. I've learned some things from some of the comments that you have left and when I've reviewed some of these knockoff pens. And to me, that just makes the, you know, fountain pen journey even more interesting as we kind of wrestle with some of these issues, because they're real issues. So I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I hope it's encouraged you to think a little deeper about some of this topic, and look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day.